Most AI demos look simple. A user asks something, the model responds, the answer looks useful, that is fine for a demo. But production AI is different. In production, model output may not just sit on a screen. It may update a ticket, route a customer issue, assign severity, trigger an alert, call an API, approve a workflow, or influence a business decision. At that point, the model is not just generating content, it is influencing execution. And once AI starts influencing execution, the system needs a control layer between the model response and business action. That control layer should validate, gate, log, review, or block output before it creates a downstream impact. That is the main idea. AI output should not move directly into business action without control. This is the difference that changes everything. In a demo, the output usually stops at the screen. It may be a chat response, a summary, a draft, or text that someone reads. If it is wrong, the damage is usually limited. But in production, that same output may connect to real workflows. It can update a support ticket, trigger an alert, route a case, assign a severity label, send a customer response, or call another system. So the standard becomes very different. The question is no longer only did the model give a good answer? The better question is what happens after the model gives that answer? That is where production risk begins. Because the risk is not just the output, the risk is what the system does next. Wrong answers are a problem, but uncontrolled execution is the bigger production risk. A model can produce an answer that sounds reasonable, but the system may still need to verify whether that answer should be used. For example, maybe the model assigns high severity to a support issue because the customer used strong language, but the actual technical impact is low. Maybe the model recommends an action, but that action violates an internal policy. Maybe the model generates a confidence summary, but important context is missing. If the system moves from model response to a system action without validation, gating, logging, or review, that is a control gap. And in production systems, control gaps eventually becomes operational risk. That is the problem this layer is meant to solve. Not by replacing the model, not by slowing everything down, but by making sure the system has a decision point before action happens. That is where the control layer comes in. The control layer is a checkpoint between AI output and downstream action. It asks one simple question: should this output move forward? And the answer should not always be yes. Sometimes the output can be accepted, sometimes it should be blocked, sometimes it should be modified, sometimes it should go to human review, sometimes it should be escalated, sometimes it should simply be logged for traceability. That is important because production AI should not treat every model response the same way. A low risk summary and an API triggering action should not receive the same level of trust. The control layer gives the system a structured way to decide what happens next. That is how AI becomes more reliable, more auditable, and safer to use in real workflows. Not all AI outputs carry the same level of risk. An internal summary is usually low risk. If the summary is imperfect, someone can correct it. A support severity label is more serious. It may affect routing, priority, SLA, or escalation. A compliance recommendation is even higher risk. It may influence business, legal, or regulatory decisions. And an API triggering action is critical because now the AI output may directly cause another system to do something. They should not all receive the same level of control. Low risk outputs may need lighter checks. Medium risk outputs may need validation and exception handling. High risk outputs may need human review, policy checks, logging, and rollback planning. Critical risk outputs may need explicit approval before execution. This is where product judgments matter. The product decision is not just can the model do this? The better product decision is How much control does the system needs before AI is allowed to do this? That is the difference between building an AI demo and building production AI infrastructure. This is the takeaway. Output is what the model produces. Execution is what a system does with it. A lot of AI risk lives in that gap. The model can suggest, but the system still needs to decide what is safe to execute. That means production AI needs validation layers, policy checks, human review triggers, logging, traceability, and control points. The companies that succeed with enterprise AI will not only be the ones using the best models, they will be the ones building the strongest operating layers around those models. Because in production, intelligence is not enough. Control is what makes AI reliable. That is why AI model output should not directly trigger business action. It needs a control layer.